Hola y bienvenido a la lección 1 de Elemental Language School. Me llamo José y esta es la lección 1, pero es parte 1 también. Entonces vamos a hablar sobre lo básico de español y puedes encontrar esta lección y otros recursos en nuestro sitio de web que es www.elementalcodes.com. So hello, good morning and welcome. This is Elemental Codes Language School. This is lesson 1. We will be going over the Spanish alphabet, el alfabeto, and this is part 1. So basically what we did is we had a full video. I had a full video that was like an hour long, and so not everybody wants to listen to an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through the information and break it up into smaller sections so that it's easier for you to concentrate on just one aspect of it. But there are people that like to listen to the full lesson as well, and in these smaller lessons I'll go into more detail as to what exactly is going on. So in this lesson we're going to go over the alphabet. Okay, el alfabeto, or you might hear el abecedario. And there's other ways of saying the alphabet. Las letras are the letters. Alright, then we'll talk about las vocales and los diptongos in other videos. But this is basically the full video lesson plan, the outline of the course. And so we're only going to focus on el alfabeto. Alright, so here are the letters, and we're just going to go over the letters real quickly because I don't want this to be too long, because I want it to be short enough to where you can just listen to the alphabet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the letter in English, and then I'm going to say it twice in Spanish. Okay, so the first one is A, which in Spanish is A. A. And with all these letters, you want it to be like really short. Okay. B in Spanish is be. Be. C in Spanish is se. Se. CH, which doesn't exist in English, in Spanish is che. Che. And I believe in the first one I said that CH and double L were taken out of Spanish. They're still considered their own separate letters, but they were just taken out of the dictionary to avoid confusion for foreigners who are trying to learn Spanish. Alright, so D in Spanish is de. De. E in Spanish is a. A. F in Spanish is efe. Efe. G in Spanish is he. He. H in Spanish is H. H. I in Spanish is E. E. J in Spanish is J. J. K in Spanish is K. K. L in Spanish is L. L. The double L, which doesn't exist in English, is Elye. Elye. M in Spanish is M. M. N in Spanish is N. N. The N with an accent on it is Enye. Enye. O in Spanish is O. O. P in Spanish is be. Be. Q in Spanish is gu. Gu. Alright, the single R in Spanish is ere. Ere. Alright, the double R is not really a letter, it's more of a sound, and so I have included it, and which is why it's in red if you're looking at the video. And that's R. R. And this happens either if the R is at the beginning of a word or if it's doubled in the middle. Okay? And sometimes it can be slightly trilled at the end, but it depends on the person speaking. So S in Spanish is ese. Ese. T in Spanish is te. T. U in Spanish is U, U. V in Spanish is B, B. And as I mentioned before, it's hardly indistinguishable to distinguish between the letter B and V in Spanish. They're essentially like the B sound, B, B. Okay? You might hear foreigners or people who have learned Spanish say V, but they're probably not a native speaker because the V and the B are so close in pronunciation that they're indistinguishable, which we kind of went over in the last video. All right, W, there's 4 ways of saying W, but I'm only going to tell you one. It is W, W. And if you want the other 3, you can go back and look at the first video. But as we mentioned in the first video, K and W are borrowed from other languages, so they didn't really exist in Spanish until they were adopted from other languages, which is why they're blue. Okay. X is X, X. Y is Y, Y. And then Z is Zeta, Zeta. So there's your alphabet. So I'll go through it one more time, and then I was going to do the examples, but I think I want to keep this as short as possible. So I'll do the examples in a separate video, but I'll just go through the alphabet like straight through without telling you the English. I'll just say the Spanish, and then we'll do the examples in another video. That way I keep it short and it's a lot easier for you to process. So if you just want to listen to the alphabet, you can, and if you just want to listen to the example sentences and questions, you can. So that, I think that'll make it a little bit easier. It'll also allow me to have shorter videos, because the last time I did this it was like an hour long, and I think that's still too long for a lot of people. So I wanted to give you at least a short video so that you can practice. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the alphabet straight through, only in Spanish. All right, so A, B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, y Z. Alright, so there's your alphabet, and then I'm going to skip these slides and I will do them in the next video. And I just wanted to leave you with some tips, okay, so that you can practice. And once you go through these videos and you learn how to pronounce all of the letters, I would suggest that you read books or articles in Spanish out loud, even if you don't know what you're reading. It's good to just practice. It's going to help your mouth to be able to form to the way that Spanish is spoken, and it's going to help you when you are beginning to speak to other people to kind of like have that, you know, ability to pronounce the words. And at least with reading, you can kind of slow down and work the word out as slowly as you need to. And in conversation, that's going to be kind of weird. But I would also suggest that you get a journal or notebook and write down the words that you don't know and look them up in the dictionary and figure out how to say them. A lot of dictionaries like SpanishDictionary.com and Word Reference will have a little icon that you can click where somebody will pronounce the word the way that it is pronounced in whatever country. And in, I think, Word Reference, they have like a few different countries as to how different countries pronounce each word, the word. So I think you click on a little bar and it'll slide down and say Mexico or Argentina or whatever. I don't remember. I don't know if it's on every single word, but I know that I've seen it. So watch shows in English with Spanish subtitles, then watch it in Spanish with English subtitles, and then watch it in Spanish with Spanish subtitles. But know what you're watching. Like, know the movie first in English, then Spanish, then completely in Spanish. And that way you can kind of hear the people and the way that they speak quickly. And what's going to happen is that when you first learn a language, you think that everything blurs together. You don't know where the pauses are. And so what happens is that as you listen and you concentrate and you begin to understand words and stuff, your brain will create pauses in between the words. So if somebody didn't speak English and they listened to this video, they would be like, I can't understand anything, and it sounds like just one continuous word. But because you know English, your brain automatically puts pauses in between the words so that it sounds like this, where you can understand every single word. Okay, so that's something that you can do. I would not recommend that you put your devices in Spanish until you have at least some understanding of the language. But this is a good way to immerse yourself, and it also can be annoying if certain things you want to do in English, you gotta like switch it back to English in order to do certain things. So listen to podcasts and books. I recommend Audible. They have a variety of books in Spanish. They have some other languages too, but not as much as they have Spanish books. So set aside time to study every day and create your own quizzes. This is something I learned from one of my professors. You want to learn what you need to learn, and so you create your own quiz, and then you write down the English on one side and wait a little bit until you kind of like are not thinking about it, and then take the quiz so that you can see if you actually remember the words, you know, instead of just memorizing them right before you take the quiz. That's not very helpful. You want to be able to like kind of like not think about the quiz when you take it. Like you don't want to be thinking about all the different things in the quiz before you take it. You want to kind of forget. So you can even make them ahead of time, make them like a couple days in advance, and then at the end of the week, you know, just give yourself a quiz, and it will help you to learn what you need to learn. Okay? Use flashcards if that's helpful. Okay? Make friends on social media. Be careful though, because there's some pretty strange people out there. I've met some of them. And but there are some awesome people out there too. I have some friends from many different countries, and they're awesome people. Okay, so make friends on social media. Make sure that they're the right friends. You're gonna might have to weed out some people. There's some crazy people out there, but you can find some really good people out there. There's Facebook groups, and you can subscribe to YouTube channels and Rumble. I just started posting videos on Rumble, and I really like the platform. It's definitely easier right now to use than YouTube, because YouTube is having some sort of issues with a whole bunch of stuff, and at one point I couldn't post a certain video that was too long or whatever. So get books in Spanish on topics that you love to learn. So get books that are what you like to learn about, and kind of just start reading through them. If you can get bilingual books, that is definitely helpful, because then you can sit there, and if you don't understand the Spanish, you can look over at the English. That would usually be side by side. I've got a few bilingual books, and I really enjoy bilingual books. Okay, it's definitely useful in the beginning when you're learning. All right, and then just enjoy the process. If you get upset or you can't figure something out, or you get frustrated, just stop doing it and come back to it when you're not frustrated. Go do something else, or go learn something else, and then come back to it when you're not frustrated. You know, go take a walk or something, go get some exercise, go punch a bag or something. You know, just leave it alone and do something else, and then come back to it when you're clear-headed. Because if you start trying to learn something when you're frustrated, it's gonna not work. So hopefully these tips help, and if I think of anything else, I will also add them. But you want to try to immerse yourself in the language if possible, and if you can move to a country where that language is spoken, I would highly recommend it. But I would definitely recommend knowing the language somewhat before you go there. But it will be a lot easier to pick it up if you move to a country where it's spoken. But you don't have to, because, like, for example, where I live in Ohio, there are places in Columbus where there's a large Spanish population. So you can go and basically immerse yourself where you're at in a lot of places. Not everywhere, but a lot of places. And even if you don't have a population of Spanish speakers, you can either move to a place where there's a lot of Spanish speakers, or you can immerse yourself in other ways. So hopefully this helps. I'm glad you joined us. I will do the sentences and the questions for the examples of the letters in the next video. But as I said, my name is Joseph. This is Elemental Codes, and feel free to check us out, www.elementalcodes.com. And I will see you in the next video. Hasta luego. Ciao, ciao.